Joining us to talk more about the ban and its effect on the U.S. economy is George Carrillo. He is the CEO of the Hispanic Construction Council. George, welcome to the program. Thanks for taking time.
Hi, thank you, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Okay, Donald Trump is using the recent attack in Boulder, Colorado as a reason to ban people from a dozen nations. To refresh memories, a number of people were attacked by an Egyptian-born man with a homemade flamethrower of sorts, and he had been in the country illegally since his visa expired back in 2023. Trump is saying he's trying to keep foreign terrorists out of this country. To what degree did that open a door and allow Trump to do something that clearly he'd wanted to do for some time?
Well, I think any opportunity opens the door for President Trump to do that. I mean, this mirrors his first administration, and so the first incident that takes place, he tries to globalize the issue in that event. I think here what the president is trying to do, he's definitely trying to send a strong message across saying when it comes to terrorism and it comes with people overstaying their visas, just like Chad. Chad has a high rate of overturned visa overstays at 49% and student overstays at 55%. But what isn't clear to me here is the inconsistency when it comes to the terrorism. He doesn't quite explain the terrorism that's coming from these countries when there's other countries that we know that do pose a threat, yet they're not on the list.
To what degree do you think he's demonizing these people?
Well, I think when it comes to immigration, the president's very good at demonizing. If we remember from his first run, he demonized Latin American countries, that there was a caravan, that it was coming and it was on its way. And, we never heard again about that caravan coming. And right now we're faced with a crisis in this nation when we think about immigration and immigration reform. The president is really doubling down, trying to get out as many Hispanics, immigrants, or just immigrants, period, out of the country right now. And we're seeing it across the country. We're seeing and witnessing it right now in Los Angeles.
Yeah, the Trump administration also apparently preparing to send thousands of migrants to the infamous Guantanamo Bay in Cuba this week, including people from allies such as Britain and France.
Yes, this is a tactic of President Trump where he wants to lead with this image of power and intimidation, and it really doesn't serve us well. We're treating people like criminals. He told us when he became president that he was going to go after criminals. That's not necessarily the case. They've arrested actually more people that are just workers than they have criminals. And so, again, this is just part of his agenda. It's part of the propaganda in order to be able to support his immigration policy, which is sort of this pure blood mentality of having to be a pure blood American.
What's the difference between the recent orders and his first term in office?
Well, here I think what we see is it's a little bit more expanded. We're seeing countries like Cuba and Haiti on the list, Venezuela. That's what we're seeing a little bit of a difference here. But like what I said earlier, what I would actually like to know is the logic behind some of this, because there's other countries that I see as more of a risk, like Russia and Pakistan and Saudi Arabia and North Korea. Yet he has some pretty close ties, as we know, with these, like with Russia, North Korea, and Saudi Arabia, that there's just this conflict of interest, and here there's a threat, and yet we don't have a ban on these countries.
What about the targeted nations and the affected communities here in the U.S.? How are they responding?
Well, I think a lot of people are hurt because, they do rely on being able to see their families. They want for them to be able to travel here, come to their graduations, come to special events like weddings and special accomplishments, and that's just not going to happen anymore. And there's a lot of people that have been trying to work and reunite family members here in the United States. And, those doors are now shut until there's a new administration or this current administration works out a different deal. But right now, I think that across the country, communities are struggling and suffering with these immigration policies.
The U.S. is also getting ready to host the World Cup, and down the line, the Olympics. Athletes aren't affected, but what about fans? Why would they want to come here and potentially be treated hostilely?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it depends from where. Like, let's take for instance, Iran. Iran's on that list. They're not going to be able to come. And what we're going to be missing out is on those opportunities of those very wealthy individuals that do follow soccer. It's a big part of their sports enterprise there in Iran. They will not be able to participate. Countries from like Latin America and things where soccer is very big, they're not going to necessarily want to come up here. Everybody's going to be worried about what will that immigration process look like. What will that screening process look like here? They don't want to be harassed. They want to come here and have a good time. And I think a lot of people are going to second guess that. And I think that's going to really affect us with the amount of tourism that we can attract. You know, putting on the World Cup takes an enormous amount of money, but also generates billions of dollars. I don't think that we're going to see the return on our investment because of this immigration strategy. People are just not going to feel safe.